Okay, so we're going to go ahead and begin, and we're going to look at 3.4. We're going to start with question number 3. And in 3.4, we're building equations. So let's look at question number 3. See what we need to do here. Okay, so question number 3. Question number 3, we want to graph this line. Okay, so when we graph a line, if it's in slope-intercept form, then we can very easily graph it. There's 3 ways that we can graph a line. 2 points, we can connect them together. A point and a slope, we can use the point with the slope to graph our line. Or if they give you an equation and it has been solved for y, then you can graph it as well. So let's try to graph our line here. So we've got y equals 1/2 x minus 1. Now what we need to graph this line, okay, is we need to eventually get a point and a slope. And our point is going to be our y-intercept. So let's remember where our pieces lie. The 1/2. What does that 1/2 represent? That 1/2, that represents your slope. So we've got our half there. That's our slope, m. And what about this -1? Okay, what do we do with that -1? Well, that -1, that makes your y-intercept. And as an ordered pair, that would be 0, -1. So 0, -1. Now what do we have? Well, now we have what we need to graph this line. Because we have a point, okay, our y-intercept, and we have our slope. So what do? We take our point and we plot that point, that y-intercept. So the number on the end, after it's been solved for y, is your y-intercept. So we've got 0, -1. So that's going to be right here. It's down 1 unit. Now, what is our slope? Our slope is 1/2. And your slope is rise over the run. And so in this case, we've got 1/2. So what do we do with this 1/2? Well, the rise is 1, because that's on the top. And the run is 2. So how do we graph this line now? Well, we have our point plotted, all right? We have that point 0, -1 already located. And from that point, this is where we start. From our point, 0, -1, we're going to go up 1 unit, and then we're going to go over 2 units. And that's going to make a new dot right there. Now we have our 2 dots, or 2 points, and we can now connect them together. And we have now successfully graphed our equation. So we just connect them together. There is our equation, the graph of our equation. So solve for y. So we picked out our slope, and the number on the end when it's been solved for y, that represents your y-intercept. We use that along with the slope to graph it. And that's what your graph should look like. And this section is very, very important because you'll be using this in the next course quite a bit. Question number 6. Now, question number 6, what we've got is we've got a point and we have a slope. Okay, so we have a point and we have a slope. And we want it in slope-intercept form. So let's remember what slope-intercept form looks like first. The slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So that's what we want. Okay, we want the answer to look like this. So we want the answer to look like that. So very important when we read these that we make sure we know what the answer needs to look like. Because there's two forms. There's standard and there's slope-intercept. Standard we'll use more in 3.5. But slope-intercept is solved for y. So let's see what we've got. Okay, we've got that 0, 7 for our point. And we have a slope of now 3/4. So what do we have? We have a point and we have a slope, right? Okay, so what formula are we going to use? We're going to use the point slope formula because it has the word point and slope in it, and that's what we've got. And that's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we label our ordered pair x1, y1, and we plug it in. So that's going to be y minus 7 equals 3/4 times x minus 0. So we went and we filled it in. The 0 doesn't do anything, so that's gone, right? So we can rewrite this as y minus 7 equals 3/4 x. How do we finish it? It needs to look like this. Okay, it needs to look like y equals. So what needs to happen with the 7? We need to add the 7. Okay, and that gives you y equals now 3/4 x plus 7. And that would be your answer in slope-intercept form. And that 7, that's actually your y-intercept. Because remember, when it's ever 0, comma, a number, that's your y-intercept. And you could have skipped all this and went straight to your answer on that one. But a lot of times students don't see that. And so you might as well just do all the work so you can see that 0 goes away. And that's what your answer looks like. And I think we also forgot to do question 5. So we'll go back and pick up 5. There's your answer in now slope-intercept form. So again, my apologies, we forgot to look at question 5. Okay, and question 5, we need to come up with our equation by looking at the picture. Okay, we need to come up with our equation from the picture. Now, when we look at this picture, we know that our slope is going to be positive. Why? Because on question 5, that line is going up from left to right. So as long as it's going up, positive slope. So let's see if we can find our slope. If we start here and we end here, because these are easy points to see, to get from this point to this point, what are we going to have to do? But to get from the starting point to the ending point, if we start here, and you could do it either way, you'll get the same result. You're going to have to go up, and you're going to have to go up 5 units. And then you're going to have to go over. Also, it looks like 5 units. Is everyone okay with that? So if you start at one point to get to the other one, you're going to have to go up 5 and over 5. So that means your slope, which of course is rise over run, we're going to have to go up 5 and over 5, and that reduces down to 1. So my slope there is 1. Is everyone okay with how I did that? So I picked 2 points, and you could do any 2. You could pick a point way down here and way up here. It doesn't matter. You just go from one to the other and draw your triangle. Go up and then over. Now, what's my equation going to look like? Well, we have a slope. I also need my y-intercept. And as an ordered pair, my y-intercept would be right there. And my y-intercept would be 0, comma, -5. right? Because that's where that's at, 0, negative 5. And since this is your y-intercept, we know it's a y-intercept. Remember, this is your b. So what's our answer going to look like? Well, we're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So we have y equals mx plus b. So now what do we know about our m? Our m is 1. We don't have to write the 1. So we'll just bring the x down. And what is our b? Our b in this case is a minus 5. So there is your answer in slope-intercept form. You can also use point slope, but this is what I mean like we talked about on the last one. Okay, if you recognize the fact that this is a y-intercept, because it's 0 in front, then you can just directly jump to your answer. If you don't see it, you can work it all the way out. But that's going to be your answer in slope-intercept form. So we looked at our picture, we found our slope, and then we also looked at our picture, and we got our slope, our y-intercept, and that let us build in our answer in slope-intercept form. Question 8. Let's look now at question 8. Question 8 is 0, 3. And my slope is minus 3/7. Okay, now, what is this right here? Well, this is your y-intercept. Right? Why is it going to be your y-intercept? Why is it not just a regular point? It's your y-intercept because of that 0. And your y-intercepts are always 0, comma, b. Now, we could use point slope formula like we did on question 6. Okay, we could use that point slope formula. You can also use the shortcut because this is a y-intercept, because it's got the 0 here, and you can use that shortcut to plug the numbers directly into your formula, which is y equals mx plus b. Okay, we know our slope, which is minus 3/7. So that comes down for your m there. And we know our b, which our b in this case is a 3. You could use point slope if you wanted to. But on this one, since you've got the y-intercept, you can also just jump directly to your answer. Let's add one more. Yep, we'll do 9. Okay, we'll do 9 as well, because 9 we cannot just jump to our answer. I was going to pick one more where we can't just jump to our answer. Okay, this one we could have, but on 9 we can't just jump to our answer. Because on 9 we've got 4, 5, and we've got a slope of negative 3. Now this right here, this is not the y-intercept. Okay, so this is not the y-intercept. So unfortunately, we cannot just jump directly to our answer. Okay, why not? Because it is not our y-intercept. It has to have that 0. If it's 0, comma some number, you can jump directly to your answer. If it's not, then we have to proceed with point slope. Why? Because we have a point and we have a slope. So we're going to use point slope. And that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And there's your x1, and there's your y1. So we've got everything that we need. We're going to plug our values in. So now we've got y minus 5 equals a minus 3, because that is our slope, times x minus 4. Is everyone okay with what I did there? So I had a point and a slope. So what did I do? I used point-slope formula. Think about what you have and the formula. It's point-slope, so I have to have a point and a slope. If I have that, then I can apply it. Now what do we do? Well, now we can finish it by distributing that negative 3 through. And watch your signs here. So that's going to be y minus 5 equals, distributing that negative 3 through, we get minus 3x. The negative and the negative here will make that a positive 12. We're almost done. What do we need to do? We need to solve it for y. So that 5 needs to be added over. And now we've got our answer in slope-intercept form, which is now y equals minus 3x plus, when we add them together, 17. So that's going to be your answer on that. Okay? And that's what we're running for the answer here. Let's do one more with the fraction, just to make sure we completely understand these. So we're going to look at question 10. Because all the questions are pretty much the same from this point on. They just build. Like this is the first type that we have. Okay? The one that we did in 3-5, we had 2 points. We added an extra step. The ones we're going to look at later today, we add an extra step. So as long as we understand the basics, from this point, then we can do the more complicated ones. So question 10. We've got 2, and we have a fraction, which is minus 5/7 for my slope. So what do we have? Always think about first what we have. And I have a flow chart that I'm going to pass out today that I think will make it a little bit easier to see all the different types of problems and how you solve them. What do we have? A point and a slope. We have a point, we have a slope, so we use the point-slope formula. And that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And this is x1, and this is y1. So we're going to now fill it all in. This one we're going to have to clear the fractions. So we have y minus 2 equals minus 5/7 times x minus 2. Distribute that minus 5/7 through. Watch out for things like double negatives. So that's going to be a minus 5/7 x. Double negative here makes it a positive. 5 times 2 makes it a 10/7. Okay. I picked this one because of the fractions. Well, what do? Well, we want to get rid of these fractions. So how do we get rid of the fractions? They have a common denominator of 7 for all of them. So multiply then everything by a 7. That'll take care of your fractions. And then we'll solve it for y. So when you have a fraction, it's a little bit more complicated. So that's 7y, when we distribute, minus 14 equals a minus 5x plus 10, because the fractions cancel out. What's our goal? Remember, our goal is to get this to be y equals. That's what we want. When we are done with this problem, we want it to be y equals. So how do we do that? Add 14. And that is now 7y equals minus 5x plus, it looks like 24. We're going to go ahead and divide by 7 everywhere. And what does that now give us? Well, when we just distribute through and divide, we get y equals, that's what we want, right? We've got a minus 5/7 x. And 24 over 7, well, that's not going to reduce. It's not going to reduce down at all. So we're going to just leave that as plus 24 over 7. That's as far as you can go on that. Is it kind of making sense what to do? And you use that formula. And again, I got a flow chart today that's got all 3 of them. I didn't want to give it last week because we hadn't covered the last page. I wanted to make sure we went through these first. But then I do have a flow chart, which is basically a recipe that you can follow to do these type of problems. Okay, so that was now question number, we did 8, and we did 9 and 10. So we've got a couple more to look at in this section. We're going to look at 12. Now, 12 is just like one of the previous ones that we did. I think it's like question 5, I believe. So we need to come up with our equation. Now, let's look at our line. First off, is my slope going to be positive or negative? Negative. Okay, so we know our slope has to be negative. If we have a positive slope, we made a mistake. So we know our slope has to be negative. And we need to pick 2 points to start from and end with. So I'm going to say we're going to start right here. And we're going to end over here. So how do we get from one point to the other? Well, if we start here, we're going to have to go down 2. Right? So we're going to have to go down 2 units. And then we're going to have to go over 1 unit. Or sorry, over 2, right? Down 2, over 2. So what's our slope going to be? Slope is the rise over the run. So we had to go down 2, so it's negative 2, and then went over 2, and that reduces down to a negative 1. Is everyone okay with that? Right? So I just counted the number of units to get from this point to this point. We have to go down 2, so that's negative 2, and over 2 to the right. That reduces down then to a negative 1. Now, what's our y-intercept? Where's that at? Okay, well, where does it cross the y-axis at? It looks like it crosses the y-axis right there. So what's my y-intercept now going to be? Well, as an ordered pair, my y-intercept would be, if I count my units, 0, 2. It's above 0. And if I count it, it looks like it's 1, 2. Now, what does my equation look like? Well, this is what we're going to use. We're going to use this template. Y equals mx plus b. So we know this is our m. And that gives you then y equals now. We don't have to put the minus 1, so we'll just put the minus there. So we've got y equals a negative x. And then this part right here is our b. So that's going to be then y equals a minus x plus 2. Is everyone okay with how I did that? So I read it. I found my slope, then I used that. Then with my y-intercept, which I got from the picture, make sure you label it as an ordered pair, that is your b. Then I can plug it straight into my formula and finish it out. One more question from this section, and then we'll move on to the next one. So question 18. And question 18, we've got some choices here. And we're going to go through these choices, and we're going to figure out which one looks like our graph of our equation here. So let's think about what we know first off. We can eliminate some of these choices because what does this 4 represent? Well, this 4 right here That's going to be your slope. And that's going to be 4 over 1. So that means we're going to go up 4 and we're going to go over 1. So which ones can I eliminate just by looking at the line itself? So we know my slope has to be positive. So which ones can go? Well, I can say we can eliminate A. Why can we eliminate A? Does anyone know why we can eliminate A? Well, if we look at it, what do we know about our slope? Slope is positive, right? Positive 4. This line right here, what is it doing? From left to right, it's going down. So A can be eliminated. A's gone. Okay. What other ones can we eliminate? We can also eliminate what? D. Why can we eliminate D? Because it's going down again. So we are now left with B and C. What does that 6 here represent? Well, that represents your y-intercept. And as an ordered pair, that would be 0, 6. Now, that point needs to be on the line. If I look at C, right here is 0, 6. Is 0, 6, is that on this line right here? No, it's not. So that one doesn't work. What about B? Does B work? Yes. Why? Because right here is 0, 6, and it's on that diagonal line. So B is the correct answer. So I used process of elimination. I got rid of 2 of them because of the slope, because they were negative slopes and ours has a positive. And then I was able to get rid of C because it has a negative y-intercept, and our y-intercept was what? Was positive. So that's why the answer is going to be B for question 18. We'll look at 3 questions out of 3-5, and then we'll take a short break. Let's look now at 3-5. We're going to look at question 1, 2, and 13. We didn't cover a lot out of 3-5. We only covered about half of it. So let's now look at question number 1 here. Now, when we read these, we've got to make sure we read the directions. Look at 1 and look at 2. 1, very important, the difference here. 1, we want it to be in slope-intercept form. And question 2, we want it in standard form. So when I read these, the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I know what my answer should look like. So the first one's going to be in slope-intercept. The second one's going to be in standard. So we've done all the ones already with slope-intercept. So we're going to do question 1. Just like we did the ones out of 3-4. Okay, we're going to solve it for 1. So for question 1, and this is 3.5, we've got 2 points. We've got -7, -3. We've got 4, -5. We need to add on an extra step. Right? So we need to eventually get to the point-slope formula. Okay? Point-slope formula. Well, we already have a point. We actually have 2. But what we do not have is we do not have a slope. So we have the points already. We've got that taken care of. But we need to find our slope. So how do we find our slope? Well, we use our slope formula. We learned this back in 3.3. Our slope formula is m equals y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And so we label our ordered pairs x1, y1, x2, y2. And now we simply plug them in. And we've got to watch out and be very careful with double negatives if we have any. So I always write it out, and then I cancel my negatives after that. So y's go on the top. A lot of times students get them mixed up. Because you think x goes first, x goes on the top. It is not. Y goes on the top because that's your rise. Again, be careful with the double negatives. So what do we have? We have y1, which is a minus 3, minus y2, which is a minus 5, over minus 7, minus 4. So let's see what we've got. We've got a double negative here. It's going to make that positive. So minus 3 plus 5, that makes it a 2. Down below, we have a minus 7 and a minus 4. That makes it a minus 11. We always bring our negatives up to the top. So that then leaves us with a slope of minus 2/11. And that's our m. So we just used our formula here. And we used our slope formula. We have our slope. Now what do we have? Okay, now we have what we need. Because we now have a slope, which is minus 2/11. And we also have the point. You can use either point. We'll just use that first one. Minus 7, minus 3. So now we have a point and we have a slope. So we're going to go back and we're going to use our point slope formula. Which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And again, we label our ordered pair, x1, y1. Nothing new, it's just this one has fractions, so it does add that little bit of extra work because of the fractions. So let's go ahead and plug our values in. Now again, watch out for double negatives. That's where students tend to make the mistakes, is with the double negative. So we've got y minus y1, which is a minus 3, equals minus 2/11 times x minus a minus 7. Double negative here makes it a positive 3. Double negative here makes it a positive 7. Take your time and you work these out. We now need to distribute and rewrite. So we've got y plus 3 equals minus 2/11 x minus 2 times 7, minus 2 times positive 7, it makes it a 14 over 11, right? You just take that numerator, multiply it by the number, put it over the denominator. Now we need to solve this for y, so we clear our fractions by multiplying it by 11. y plus 33 now equals a minus 2x plus 14. Is everyone okay with what we're doing so far? From now on, it's just algebra. So we're at this point. We need to now solve this for y. So we're going to move that 33 over. So move that 33 over with subtraction here. That's 11y equals now a minus 2x, and 14 minus 33 makes it a minus 19. We'll divide by our 11, and now we're done. So now we've got our answer, the slope-intercept form, which is y equals a minus 2/11 x minus 19 over 11. And I know these are difficult just because of the algebra. There's a lot of steps, And so we just have to remember what to do. 2 points, find the slope, use the point-slope formula. That was question 1. Now, question 2 is pretty much the same, but we want it in standard form. Okay, so question 2, we want standard form. So let's review standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. Now, a must be positive, so a has to be greater than greater than 0. Be equal, so it's greater than 0. And a, b, and c are integers. So no fractions and no decimals on these. If we have fractions or decimals, we have to clear them out. So a's got to be positive. A, B, and C are going to be integers. If we have decimals or we have fractions, we clear them out in standard form. We're going to proceed exactly the same way that we did the last one. So we've got the point minus 2 minus 9. And we've got the point minus 10 minus 2. What do we have? 2 points. What's the only thing that we can do? Find our slope. y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And again, we label x1, y1, x2, y2. Very, very careful again about the double negatives. So that's going to be minus 9, right? Minus a minus 2 over minus 2 minus a minus 10. See all the double negatives. Be careful with those. Double negatives make it positive. Let's see what we've got. So we've got minus 9 plus 2. Minus 9 plus 2 makes it a minus 7. Minus 2 plus 8 makes it a positive, plus 10 makes it a positive 8. And that's our slope. So there's going to be minus 7/8 there. Is everyone okay with that so far? Right? Just use our formula. Take your time. Be very careful with the algebra. If you need to use a calculator, use a calculator. You don't want to make a mistake. This is nothing but algebra in this section. Okay, so now what do we have? Let's go back and see. We now have that point, minus 2 minus 9. So that's our point. We now have our slope, which is minus 7/8. We want to get our equation, and what do we have? A point and a slope. So what do we use? We use the point-slope formula. There's our formula. Now what are we going to do? We're going to plug our values in. So we've got x1 and y1. We plug our values in. So that's y minus a minus 9 equals minus 7/8 times x minus a minus 2. Watch out again for those double negatives. Where students tend to make mistakes is you get in a hurry and you're not careful and you don't use that double negative. So what's that double negative is going to make it positive. So we've got 2 of these to worry about. So we have a double negative here. Makes that positive. Double negative over here makes it positive. Distribute through your parentheses. So now we have, when we rewrite, y plus 9 equals minus 7/8 x. Now, minus 7 times 2, minus 7 times 2 makes it a positive 14 over 8. We could reduce it down, but we don't need to because we're going to go ahead and clear our fractions, because we cannot have fractions in standard form. So let's go ahead and clear out our fractions. So we're going to multiply it all by 8. So multiply everything by 8 to clear out your fractions. And so 8y plus 72 equals a minus 7x plus 14. Now we want it in standard form. So let's go back and make sure we know what standard form looks like. If we go back up here, it needs to look like this, standard form. And so what do we know? Standard form, the x and the y are on the left-hand side. X goes first, followed by the y. So let's go ahead and move things over. So this x needs to go over to the left. So we're going to add 7x over. And the 72 goes to the right. So move over that 72 with the minus. And now we'll have it in standard form. So 7x goes first. 8y is right behind it. And that equals now, we've got 14 minus 72, which is that minus 58. So there's our answer there. And that is now in standard form. And that's in standard form. The next one that we asked about was question 13, and this is the last one before we take a break. And question 13 is very, very similar. It's actually a little bit easier because of the zeros. Okay, so question 13 is the same type of problem. We do want it in standard form as well. So 13, we want it in standard form. Just so remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c. And on question 13, we've got 5, 0, and we've got 0, 3. So this one will actually be a little bit easier. What do we have? 2 points. What do we find? Our slope. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And what's our slope formula? Slope formula is m equals y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. This one's going to be easier because of those zeros. So 0 minus 3 over 5 minus 0, and that is then minus 3 over 5. So that's my slope. And what do we now need? We need a point and a slope. Doesn't matter which one we use. Let's use this one. Okay, you can use either one. Does not matter at all. How about we use 0, 3? I picked 0, 3 because what is this? We talked about this quite a bit in the last section. Because of this 0 right here, this is the y-intercept. And that's 0, b. Remember that? Right? So we can save ourselves a little bit of work. Anytime you have the y-intercept, pick that one. Because you can use that to jump directly to your answer in slope-intercept form. Okay, because that's your y-intercept, right? Remember, it's 0 in front, comma some number. That's your b. Now, what does our formula look like? Y equals mx plus b. So that's going to be y equals minus 3/5 x plus 3. But we're not completely done yet, because this is in slope-intercept form. And we want standard form. Okay, so this is in slope-intercept. We want standard. So how are we going to handle this? Well, to get it in standard form, first thing is standard form cannot have any fractions. So we want to get rid of our fractions because we want it in standard form. So, easy enough to do. Multiply it by 5. And that leaves us then with 5y equals minus 3x plus 15. One more step. We want it in standard form. So the x and the y have to be on the left. So how do we get this in standard form? We add 3x. And now we've got what we need, which is 3x plus 5y equals now 15. Okay, so there's going to be your answer in standard form. So we were able to get it in slope-intercept by using our slope and our intercept. That came out nicely, and we got it in standard form by just clearing out our fractions. So let's take a short break, and let's meet back here at 9:35. So we'll meet back here at 9:35, and then we'll start more in section 3.5. Okay, so back in about 10 minutes, and we will start part of the next section.